The team is absolutely loaded, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm 0-3, and so I feel like let's just be patient. Plus, I don't know if you know this. This is the biggest season ever.
I've never heard that.
I know, right? Which means I have an extra week to kind of get things right. So I know it. Normally at 0-3, like you really are pushing the panic button, but now, if we go to 0-4, then maybe I freak out.
Then you get a little weird. Yeah, I'm in a league with the guys at WEEI, popping off. I did their show, and I'm like, yeah, I'll be in your league. Well done. I walked out of that draft.
What are you doing?
So confident.
It's terrible. My Boston accent's awful.
It's really bad.
It's really
Mine
bad.
was on point on Saturday.
Was it?
I don't know if you saw it. Well, it's
go pack the car and go get a better team.
Okay, there we go. Little improvements there.
I'm sorry.
I know you guys have questions. Make sure you tweet us at NFL Fantasy. Here's a look at our notable actives and inactives for today. Christian McCaffrey, no surprise, will not be playing, but make sure you plug in Chuba Hubbard. Our active players, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, and Antonio Gibson. Some good news there.
Tony G.
Huge hit for the Titans. Both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are out. Lamar Jackson in our later game, he's questionable, as is Melvin Gordon, Elijah Mitchell, Tyler Lockett, and George Kittle. Rob Gronkowski, he is inactive, as is Chase Claypool with that hamstring injury. Now, it just said that Rob Gronkowski, he is inactive. He will not be making his glorious return to the football field in Foxborough. Tom Brady, however, will be. But with this Gronk situation, seeing that he has been pretty darn efficient in fantasy football these first 3 weeks, who are you guys starting in place of Tom Brady, Marcus?
In place of Tom Brady or place of Gronk? I know what
in
you
replace of Gronk.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for a Buccaneer, the answer is probably Cameron Brate over O.J. Howard. But I think if you're looking for, I think you go outside of Tampa Bay and find somebody. Like, I like Dawson Knox this week. Had a really nice touchdown catch. He's starting to get involved. He was a guy that I liked before the season as kind of a deep sleeper at tight end, and Josh Allen is spreading the football around pretty effectively. On top of it, they get the Texans this week, so if there's anybody you're going to pick on, why not pick on that Texans defense?
Rank, what about you? Any tight end in place of Rob Gronkowski you like?
Tommy Tremble.
Wow.
That's where I'm going to go. Yeah, listen, the Carolina Panthers, they cleared space. They traded Dan Arnold because they're like, we've got Tommy Tremble now, and we're going to make waves. And I really think that this is a pretty good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, who've allowed the second most fantasy points to tight ends this season. Also, Trayvon Diggs likely to lock up DJ Moore. So that means the other pass catchers, Robbie Anderson, should be really good. Terrace Marshall could be a nice sleeper. But I think that Tommy Tremble, the way to go.
I think that's the best name for a tight end in fantasy
Tommy
football.
Tremble.
Tommy Tremble.
He's going to make the other opponents quake.
Oh, we got
I can see The Rock
puns.
delivering that line.
We waited all the way for week 4 to have fun. All right, guys, some big news that I mentioned earlier out of Tennessee. Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, they are both out for the Tennessee Titans. So does that mean we have any concern over Derrick Henry and his usage against the Jets today?
I'm concerned they're going to use him too much.
Yeah. Oh, no, they're using Derrick Henry way too much. He also catches the ball now, which is not cool. It's like if a shark learned how to use nunchucks. Like, why is that legal? You're already, like, super menacing. Now you've got nunchucks? That's wild. I really do believe that, it wasn't like Tannehill was throwing it to A.J. Brown and Julio anyways. He was going to that helps no one route anyways. So Josh Reynolds, maybe a thing. I don't know. To me, though, it just seems like especially with the game script, that you would just rely on Derrick Henry in this contest.
All right, so no worries about Derrick Henry, but Marcus, if you were a fantasy manager that had A.J. Brown or Julio Jones, who is a receiver you could plug in and feel confident playing this week?
There are a handful of guys that I think can go out and be productive for you. I mean, I think Henry Ruggs is one, Jacoby Myers, but the guy that I really like, and we talked about him a lot, is Tim Patrick, who it just seems like every year Denver has injuries to their wide receiver core, and Tim Patrick just slides in there and produces. And I think this is going to be another case of that today. The matchup is not super great against the Ravens defense, but I think the opportunity is going to be there. Teddy Bridgewater has been really good getting the football out this year. So if you lost either Brown or Julio Jones, Tim Patrick is still available in a ton of NFL.com leagues.
Love it. We're on the Tim Patrick train. We're on the Denver Bronco train.
Yeah.
We're sticking to it. Rank, I'm coming to you on this one. Obvious reasons. Matt Nagy said that Justin Fields is going to start today. Very good. But I know our Twitter feeds have blown up and our mentions have blown up because a lot of people have questions with Justin Fields under center.
Yeah.
Do you feel confident playing Allen Robinson and David Montgomery?
Yes and yes. Why wouldn't I be? Like, everybody, like, it's not The Lions are not the Browns. Like, why are you so concerned about it? This is the best possible matchup that you could want for Justin Fields. And the thing is, Matt Nagy was kind of evasive with who is going to be calling the plays this week. And I had a conversation with Ian Rappaport earlier on Thursday or Friday. And he said, whatever a coach is doing that, it means that he's already given up play control. Like, he's just trying this gamesmanship type of thing. So for me, I think that you can feel very comfortable starting Allen Robinson. Justin Fields should make David Montgomery much more effective because of his threat to run. And honestly, Justin Fields is not a terrible start in and of itself. If you think about guys like Ryan Tannehill, I think will have a limited ceiling. I think that Matt Ryan, I think Teddy Bridgewater going up against the Baltimore Ravens, I think there's a chance that you can get Justin Fields out there.
I legit thought this is when Justin Fields would take over as a starter anyway. Like,
Right.
get past the Rams, get past the Browns. Because after this game, like after this one, they've got a couple of really favorable games coming up in the next few weeks. So I felt like this is the time to get him in. And I think after last week, I think they go back to basics on offense, which means get the ball to David Montgomery, get the ball to Allen Robinson, make things easy on your rookie quarterback. So I'm cool with starting both those guys.
They were terrible against the Rams, and then they came out and smoked the Bengals.
There you go.
The 3-1 Bengals. So it's like they're fine. Like, this is just a pattern. They're going to be great at home.
Okay, so no panic button. Make sure that you do plug in both Allen Robinson and David Montgomery into your starting lineups, and even Justin Fields, because the matchup is there. It's time for Waiver Wire, presented by KFC. Here are some guys who are available in over 50% of NFL.com leagues. We got quarterbacks, running backs, wide outs, and even Dawson Knox at the tight end position. Make sure if you have an option to get a guy, go out and grab him right now. Now, Marcus, who is your favorite waiver wire hero? We all need heroes.
Yeah, I mean, like, favorite, I don't know, there's probably somebody else, but the guy that I like, if you're talking about last minute, you're just trying to scramble, Bryan Edwards. And because the Raider passing game has been really good this year. I don't know, Frank, you've been on Derek Carr for a while now. But I think
I'm the fourth Carr brother.
You are, you really are. It's so it'd be like David, Derek, Darren, and like Datum. But they're starting to get more people involved. We know that Darren Waller is going to be the lead target here, but we're seeing more Henry Ruggs. We're seeing more Bryan Edwards. And Edwards is more of a downfield guy. He's not getting a ton of targets, but he's been a big chunk play guy, and he's got a ridiculous catch rate for a guy who's getting targets like 10, 15 yards down the field.
Love that. Rank, what about you? Waiver wire hero, David Bowie.
Well,
we could be
heroes just for one day. You know what? I'm going to go with a guy who could probably be a hero for multiple weeks, and it's going to be J.J. Taylor of the New England Patriots. Now, obviously, if you looked at that list a moment ago, you would have seen Nyheim Hines on there. He should be gone out of your leagues.
He should be gone.
Two players that I have on virtually every one of my teams, Nyheim Hines and J.J. Taylor, waiting for this opportunity. With James White being out, this is exactly what I expected, that J.J. Taylor was going to be the player to step up. Now, you could look back to last week and say, well, when White got hurt, they went to Brandon Bolden, which is true, because whenever you're in a situation like that, you're going to lean on a veteran who knows the offense. But now that you've had a full week of practice, J.J. Taylor can be implemented, and I've said this plenty of times. To me, when you're watching the highlights, he looks like Rex Burkhead. He plays like Rex Burkhead. So I think that this is going to be a perfect transition.
No, I need Damian Harris to still be a thing, and I'm sure he will.
He's still the number one running back.
Yeah, he's still the number one running back. I just think that, especially if this game gets to be a little bit more high scoring. I know Cynthia Freeland was talking about earlier this week that it could be lower scoring. Somebody's talking about it being lower scoring. But I think that if it does get higher scoring, then it plays to the favor of J.J. Taylor because they're going to have to throw the ball more.
And you said a hero, not just for one day,
hero,
but for the rest of the season. I'm going to kind of go with you on a waiver wire hero because you talked about the Raiders having an incredible passing game because Derek Carr is on fire. So why not go ahead and try to pick up Hunter Renfrow as well? He's still available in about 15% of NFL.com leagues. He's had double-digit fantasy points in each game played this season. He just had his highest point total last week in Week 3. He even got in the end zone. Clearly, Derek Carr can just push the ball downfield, and he has plenty of weapons. So Hunter Renfrow is one as well. Gentlemen, it's time for 15 for 15, presented by Geico. Let's do it. Sunday Fun Night Air Horns. Dak Prescott, there he is. 878 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 19 rushing yards so far this season. He's electric. I'm just happy he's back from that injury, and he's feeling good. All right, it's Sunday Fun Day. Rank, talk us through your starting quarterbacks.
Well, we still like Matthew Stafford, who'll be playing right across the street here at SoFi Stadium against the Arizona Cardinals. Dak Prescott. Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the Eagles did not play well last week against the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Hurts still had a great fantasy day. Kirk Cousins, one of the more consistent fantasy quarterbacks this season. Well, let's take a moment. I know we touched on the Raiders offense this year. I find it very difficult to try to project which one of these receivers is going to be the guy to break out week from week. But what I do know is that Derek Carr is going to be a great option. 1,200 yards on the season, 3-0. I think the last quarterback to do that was Kurt Warner, and I think he won an MVP that year. So Derek Carr is playing at that MVP prolific pace, and this Monday, at home against the Chargers. Well, no, I'm just saying.
This is a Chargers home game.
Okay, I'm sorry, but Los Angeles. The only LA team to win a Super Bowl, mind you. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I mean, I knew that. Yes.
Okay. I didn't know.
I'm aware of that.
You guys are kids. I don't know.
Okay. Now I'm all thrown off. I'm talking about Jalen Hurts here because Jalen Hurts, it's weird because no matter what the situation has been this year, Jalen Hurts has figured out how to get you 20 or more fantasy points. Whether it's with his arm, whether it's with his legs, he's getting it done. And, you know, the Chiefs' defense not as formidable as it maybe was a couple of years ago. So there's some opportunities here. I think they're going to need him to be productive in order to stay in this game because I would imagine the Chiefs' offense is going to come out with a vengeance. So I think Jalen Hurts is going to put in a lot of work today.
I love Jalen Hurts. Love Jalen Hurts. All right, it's almost time to look at Marcus's running back board. But before we do that, Dalvin Cook, he is playing. He's going to play today against the Cleveland Browns. He's dynamic. We said he's a top 3 fantasy running back last season. Him being healthy is imperative to get there. Marcus, talk us through your must-start running back.
Yeah, so you got Jonathan Taylor, who I know folks have been waiting on to have a big breakout game. And not Adam Rank, because he's the Nyheim Hines stan around here. You see that the Kenyon Drake, Peyton Barber, I could also throw Josh Jacobs into that list too. Basically, whoever the starting running back is going to be for the Raiders against the Chargers is the guy that you want. So if it's Josh Jacobs, he's questionable. We'll find out. Zach Moss, David Montgomery, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, though, is the guy that I really want to talk about, who, you know, everybody has kind of focused on the fumbles, and obviously those have been big because they have cost the Chiefs a couple of games late. But Andy Reid has shown confidence in going back to him. On top of it, because you have Patrick Mahomes, you can't stack the box against this offense. The Eagles, when they had 6 or fewer in the box, given about 5 yards per carry. So even with a limited number of touches, I think CEH can be good this week.
You're making me feel a little bit better.
That's what I'm here for.
My heart rate's rising. CEH, stop fumbling the ball. Be good. Come on, my big guy. What about you, Rank?
Well, I'm going to make you worried about Jonathan Taylor. I think that you have to start him, obviously, but Quentin Nelson's not going to play this week, and of course, Nyheim Hines. I think that Jonathan Taylor's just stealing too many looks from Nyheim Hines.
Is that what it is?
That's me, yeah.
Wow. Okay, great. So I felt better, and now my heart rate is rising because I need Jonathan Taylor to be great as well, or else I truly am hitting the panic button. All right. It's time to look at some must-start receivers, but before we go there, Odell Beckham Jr. Gosh, I'm happy that he's healthy. He's going to be back. Yeah. He returned to the field last week against the Chicago Bears. 77 receiving yards, 10 rushes as well. Rank, talk us through your must-start wideouts.
Once again, I talked about Allen Robinson. I have no apprehension with that. Amari Cooper needs to bounce back this week. I think that he can do that. I know the Panthers have been playing very well. Brandon Cooks, you know, a player that we've been talking about going all the way back to August. Definitely tough matchup against the Bills, but I would still start him. But one of the players that I'm really looking forward to seeing this week is Deebo Samuel, who's been fantastic this year. He's got a great matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, who are Legion of Boom in name only. Like that, those days are over.
Not
you can start your receivers. And even though Deebo has a 33% target share for the 49ers, it doesn't seem like enough. And if George Kittle doesn't go today, I think Deebo Samuel gets like 90 targets.
Wow, just 90.
9-0.
Great floor. Marcus, what about you? Must start wideout.
Mike Williams. BMW. Big Mike Williams.
Yes,
man.
BMW.
We're not doing TMJ. We're not doing BMW.
We're definitely doing BMW.
Nope.
We are rolling the deal. Look, he's been great all year long. And I thought this was going to be a good year for Mike Williams. It has been a much better year than I anticipated for Mike Williams. He's got about a 25% target share, which is just nuts. And I think both of these teams, the Raiders, the Chargers, they're 2 of the top 4 passing games in the league. They're going to have to score a lot of points. Mike Williams, especially because they're going to try to lock down on Keenan Allen. So now you just go across the way to Mike Williams. BMW, it's a thing.
This is going to be a fun game. This is going to be a fun game across the street at SoFi Stadium. It's time to look at some tight ends. My favorite tight end in the league, Travis Kelce. We talked about defenses not being able to stack the box against the Chief offense. It's because this guy is on the other side of that field, hoping to get back on track for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. 3 touchdowns. That's why he's the best of the best. Marcus, talk us through your must-starts at the tight end spot.
All right, well, you see up the top, Noah Fant, then Logan Thomas, who I've been loving all year. Dallas Goedert picked it up last week. Dawson Knox. It'll be Dawson's week. Dawson's week. And then Pat Freiermuth, who I think is a really deep sleeper this week for the Steelers. But let's go back to the top and talk about Kimmy's pal, Noah Fant. Look, on paper, the Ravens look like they've been bad against tight ends. Then you sort of dig deeper and you realize the first 2 weeks they played Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. Yeah. That'll make a lot of people look bad against tight ends. But I do think there's a path for Noah Fant here just because last week the Ravens locked down on T.J. Hawkinson, but the Lions don't have the variety of pass catchers that the Broncos do. So they can, if you're the Ravens, you got to kind of pick your poison. I think it's going to be tough to cover Fant.
Like, what a stretch for the Ravens, like the 4 tight ends they've had to pick. Because Noah Fant is no slouch.
No.
Yeah, so they've had
he's good.
Waller, Kelce, Hawkinson, and now Fant in the first 4 weeks. That's a rough go.
Then they're going to play Jay Novacek next week. I don't know why I went to Jay Novacek.
Brent Jones,
Whatever.
All right, it's time for a quick break, but make sure that you continue to stick with us. Ooh, Rank. You love him. You love him.
Hey, what's up, Kirk Cousins?
Kirk Cousins. All right, coming up next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, we're sliding into some DMs and giving you our definitely must-starts. Stick with us. Our producers are just spoiling me at this point. You've already showed Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Why not show Tyreek Hill for the Kansas City Chiefs? Again, looking to get back on track versus the Eagles. Alvin Kamara. The Saints are finally back in the Superdome, guys. They are back home in New Orleans. And a lot of fantasy managers hoping Alvin Kamara has one of those crazy days where he puts up, 3, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns.
I want some
that's what he can do.
Now.
Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. Just a reminder, Tweet us and send us your questions. We want to answer them. Tweet us at NFL Fantasy, or if you're watching us live on YouTube right this second, make sure that you have all of your questions in the comment box, and we will get to them. All right, Marcus, first question from a fan. They want to know, Antonio Brown, Chuba Hubbard, or Adam Thielen in my flex spot?
Gosh.
Full point PPR.
What a great
That's
team.
loaded, by the way.
That really is kind of first world problems there. Why not Adam Thielen? I mean, dude's been on fire all year long. That's where I'd go with that.
100%, I'm with you.
Easy. All right, Adam Rink, this one for you next. Jamal Williams or Miles Sanders?
I think you can start Miles Sanders this week. I know the Eagles abandoned the run game last week, but I think you feel comfortable going back to him this week.
Okay, Marcus, coming back around to you. Jalen Waddle or Emmanuel Sanders in my flex? Half-point PPR.
Because it's half-point PPR, I think you're going Jalen Waddle in his 73 targets that he had last week.
Like,
I think that's
the only guy that Jacoby Brissett sees on the
12
field.
catches for less
Jacoby
than 60
Brissett
yards.
revenge game, by the way.
Exactly. Oh. All right, Adam Rank, full-point PPR. Dallas Goedert or Ingram?
Goddard.
Okay, that was easy. Yeah. Easy. Next one. All right, Marcus, back around to you. Tim Patrick, extremely consistent, or Marquise Hollywood, no longer Van Nuys Brown, inconsistent but great when he does good for a wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think I go with Brown just because the ceiling is higher there.
Okay.
You know, and look, as long as he doesn't have too many drops, it should be okay. It should be all right.
Okay. All right, Rank, last one for you. Brandon Cooks versus Buffalo, Kenny
Brandon
Galladay versus the Saints, or Devonta Smith versus the Chiefs.
I feel like you can feel comfortable starting Devonta Smith this week, but I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks because he's been the most consistent.
And because we
Even a tough matchup. But
we
if they're
talked about
losing
him on
by
the
a
show.
ton,
We love him.
yeah, if they're still losing by a ton, they still have to throw.
All right, you guys have slid into our DMs, and not the creepy way. This is called Fantasy DMs. That stands for Definitely Must Start. So, Marcus, who are you definitely must starting, sliding in their DMs in fantasy football?
Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ's back. I mean, he came back last week. He had, I think, 9 targets, something like that. He had 7 catches, played really, really well last week, and I think that continues. The Vikings secondary has holes in it, especially there's still no Jarvis Landry. They've got to go somewhere with the football. So I think this is another week that Odell just gets plenty of work.
I hope so.
Yeah. I'm sliding into the DMs of Najee Harris. By the way, I'm tickled.
Why with that voice?
I'm tickled because I remember there used to be a show on this network called Fantasy and Friends. I guess we're not on the network today, but Fantasy and Friends. I remember the pitch meeting of trying to sell this, like fantasy DM, definitely must start. But Najee Harris, I think, is a definitely must start this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously need to find some consistency somewhere. And I kind of like this matchup this week against the Green Bay Packers. I know that everybody's predicting the Packers to win by 40. That's not the way the NFL works. The Packers are coming off a huge win in San Francisco-ish. And, you know, Jace. And I honestly believe that this is going to be an opportunity for the Steelers to get back on track. We see this too often in this league, that these teams that we want to write off and be like, they're done. Steelers are done. And then all of a sudden they knock off a team like the Packers. They're like, who saw this coming? We did. The people who are watching Fantasy Game Day saw this coming.
And just Najee Harris does not leave the football field. So just because of that point, you literally have to always start him. I know we kind of mentioned this guy earlier, but I'm going to double down on it. Maybe this is me just wanting to manifest this actually happening, but I'm still going to definitely start Jonathan Taylor. And maybe this is the last week I do so, but I think the opportunity is there for him today against the Miami Dolphins. I know that rank is a I can't even talk. Naheem Hines stand, but Jonathan Taylor still is a thing. He also has the most looks inside of the opponent's 5-yard line, so hopefully he actually gets into the end zone. The matchup on paper also incredible. No, all right, come on. Time for a quick break, but make sure you continue to stay with us on NFL Fantasy Game Day. Daniel Jones, we had him as a top 5 fantasy quarterback 1 week this season. Don't sleep on him.
Never again.
Never again. No, don't say that.
Never again.
Adam Thielen, we said he was fantastic. Make sure that you stick with us. Coming up next, we're going to tell you who you should not sleep on. Sunday Sleeper coming up. NFL Fantasy Game Day. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, some cancer screenings declined by 90%. Don't wait. Remind a loved one and talk to your own doctors about getting screened. It takes all of us to intercept cancer. Visit NFL.com/crucialcatch to learn more. You see us repping our pink, so make sure that you do continue to talk to your loved ones and your own doctors to monitor anything going on health-wise. All right, gentlemen, it's time to get to our notable actives and inactives. We already mentioned it at the top of the show, but just in case you're just tuning in, this is what we are looking at. Christian McCaffrey, no surprise, he's not going to be playing today. Dalvin Cook, however, is going to suit up, as well as DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, and Antonio Gibson. A.J. Brown and Julio are out, as well as Sterling Shepard. Regarding our later games, Lamar Jackson, Melvin Gordon, and Elijah Mitchell are all questionable. So is Tyler Lockett and George Kittle. Chase Claypool and Rob Gronkowski are out. We ready for week 4? I hope so. It's time for some burning questions. What?
I mean, it started on Thursday.
I know, but Sunday, I don't know. All right, it's time to talk about some burning questions, gentlemen. Are we ready for it?
Sure, why not?
Okay, only a few quarterbacks this season have been able to amass over 22 fantasy points on a weekly basis. So, who are going to have more fantasy points in week 4? Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady in his return to New England, or Kirk Cousins?
Ooh, I'm probably going to go with old TB12.
Yeah,
it just feels like it. He's back home. Well, back home. He's back in Foxborough, and he wants to show out. He wants to prove that he was actually the person that made this thing go and not Bill Belichick, so I'm going to go Brady here.
You know, I feel like Patrick Mahomes seems like a layup. I mean, they need to get back on track. I mean, they're 1-2 against an Eagles team that can give up a lot of points. I think Mahomes has a monster game.
Really?
A monster.
Are you just saying that?
Monster.
He's a PPR monster.
Is he?
What?
He is. I know, but I'm very
matter.
worried. I'm very worried about the Kansas City Chiefs. But like we said earlier, defenses literally cannot stop this offense. So they just need to get back on track.
I mean, they've stopped themselves more than anyone has stopped them this year.
I know, our defense needs some stop. But don't worry, we now have Josh Gordon. So things are really good for us. Our next burning question, because we have so many of them, especially in fantasy football. What is our next burning question? Can we fly it in, guys?
I'll tell you
Chase Edmonds. Does he finally score a touchdown today versus the Rams?
You know what? He's been one of the better running backs who has not broken into the end zone this season. I'm not sure that he's going to do it this week against the LA Rams
come
either.
on.
Honestly, it's not something that I would bank on. They love going to James Conner anytime they get near the goal line. And obviously, Kyler Murray's always a threat to run one in himself. And so, to me, if you're looking for just a guy to bank on having a touchdown, I can't. It's too volatile for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. I think Edmonds gets a lot of work because they're going to throw him the ball out of the backfield, but teams don't run on the Rams mostly because they score so many points. Like, you have to throw the ball to keep up. So, and when they get close, it's probably going to be the Kyler Murray show.
No, I thought he was going to be a sneaky sleeper. I just need him to get into the end zone.
He's fine. He's still a good player.
But I need him to score.
Don't you like it that you have the nice, safe floor with him without the touchdown?
I do.
But when he does get a touchdown, it's going to be huge.
I do. Our next burning question has everything to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are we giving up on the Steelers wide receivers? 1, because of injuries, but 2, because of Big Ben?
I think you are starting Deontay Johnson.
Yes.
I think he's a guy that you can still start because basically there's just one guy that gets the targets funneled to him, and it's whoever the lead wide receiver is on any given week. So we know Chase Claypool is out, Juju is banged up, Deontay's supposed to play. So I think he's kind of a safe start, but beyond that, I'm pretty much out.
Actually, for this week, I fear Jair Alexander more than I fear Ben Roethlisberger. I think that's the bigger issue to me. I think that, you know, the Packers have a lockdown corner that's actually more disruptive than the quarterback because, like as you said, he would love to target Deontay Johnson. So I'm looking at some other spots. That's why I like the tight end pick for you.
Freiermuth?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best. So I don't fear Ben. I know it's terrible and it's looked bad, but I think Freiermuth is the guy. I think that's the play this week.
Okay. So make sure you have that in mind, fantasy managers watching us. It's time now for Fantasy Insurance presented by Geico. Let's talk about some week 4 sleepers. We all need them. We all love them. Marcus, who you got?
Going Zach Moss.
Yes.
Zach Moss, man. A rolling moss gathers no stone or something. I don't know. I mean, this is a guy who went from being a surprise inactive in week 1, then in week 2, just kind of being an afterthought, getting some garbage time opportunities. Then last week, he looked like the guy in the backfield. And I think the biggest thing that happened and maybe we'll have it here. I don't think it's this play, but there was a play where Josh Allen kind of got deep and ended up just dumping it off to Moss, who scored a a receiving touchdown. In the past, I feel like Allen would have kept it himself, but maybe that's growth, which is good news for Zach Moss.
Yeah.
We love growth. Maybe he's been to therapy.
Yeah.
Rank, what about you?
Maybe.
A sleeper you love?
Well, I think that Tim Patrick's been a player that we've put over pretty much throughout the entirety of the season here. Great opportunity with the injuries to the Broncos receiving core. I know a lot of people will look at the Ravens and be like, we can't start a receiver against the Ravens, but you can throw on this team. Marlon Humphrey has given up some big plays. And if you want to go super deep, if you're like, Rank, thanks for the Tim Patrick tip, but he's been gone for 4 weeks. Look for Colin Johnson of the New York Giants. I think he's got an opportunity.
Love the sleepers. I'm getting spicy because that's my middle name. Jameis Winston versus the Giants,
spicy
maybe?
checks.
A little bit spicy, yeah. Spicy checks mixed today. I love this because Jameis Winston is getting his start in New Orleans. The Saints have finally returned back to New Orleans after a fire in the Superdome, after a hurricane has hit. And Jameis Winston wants to impress this fan base. The Giants, not so great against fantasy quarterbacks. They're allowing at least 2 passing touchdowns. We know that Alvin Kamara is going to get a ton of work in the receiving game as well. So I like Jameis. I want to see week 1 Jameis when he had 5 passing
So you're
touchdowns.
telling
He
me
had like 30 passing yards.
You're telling me he's going to get more than 150 passing yards for the first time this season?
Yes, he has to. He absolutely has to. Please, please, Jameis, just for me, just for my spice, you have to get at least 150 passing yards. All right, Baker Mayfield, there he is, next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. Rank's been doing some curls, fantasy flex, coming up next.
I got
we got you.
some TB12 armbands.
I get it. You work out.
Humble brag. Devonta Smith, he's playing really good for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Obviously, the connection with him and Jalen Hurts, it's there. They had a teammate get an interception on him, but, you know, it's okay. He's still
He
good.
fell on that play, too.
Okay, don't roast him. Could
No,
you do that?
I think that Diggs already had the route.
Zeke,
I think that's why
is he eating? Rank had a hot take and said that Tony Pollard was the best running back for the Dallas Cowboys once, and then Zeke scored a ton of points.
I said that last week, and it inspired Ezekiel Elliott to go out there and have the best performance of his.
So you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
you're
thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Adam Rafe. Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico. Kimmy Checks, Marcus Grant, Adam Rank. You guys, I know you've been lifting weights. You know, we're swole in the pandemic.
I do a elastic bands.
Little plyometrics.
We're doing some things.
You know.
Push-ups, pull-ups.
Yeah,
What a body
since Rank
weight.
is so good with the humble brags, let's start with your flex, because we know you flex a lot. Favorite
I do
flex
flex a
for
lot.
week 4 is?
Kareem Hunt. I really like this play, and I think that he's almost at RB2 at this point because he's still heavily involved in the Browns offense. Now, to me, even with Odell Beckham Jr. is back, so I think that he might have to give up the position as the best pass catcher on this team, but he's certainly top 2, and he gets a surprisingly large amount of goal line carries for whatever reason, which is inexplicable with a team that has Nick Chubb on it. But I think Kareem Hunt needs to be started every single week.
Yeah, no, Kareem Hunt's great. I'm going to go with Christian Kirk, who is he's going to be visiting our neighbor's house, and they're going to be playing a game over there. And look, Christian Kirk has been really good to start the season. You want to talk about motivating players? I think it's because I said at the start of the year that I was sort of off the Christian Kirk bandwagon, and now he's balling out. But also because I think that you're going to see DeAndre Hopkins get a heavy dose of Jalen Ramsey in this game, which will be fun to watch just from a football standpoint, but not so much if you want fantasy points from Nuke Hopkins. But in the meantime, I think that opens things up for Christian Kirk to go ball.
And speaking of balling, his quarterback, obviously good through the air as
He's
well.
very good.
Everyone's always like, he rushes the ball. He runs, or he throws the ball.
He can throw the ball, yeah.
I love Emmanuel Sanders this week. And speaking of Stephon Diggs, we mentioned him a little bit earlier in the show. Emmanuel Sanders is putting up more points than Stephon Diggs. We talk about veteran guys stepping to elite offenses and having a quarterback like Josh Allen. Emmanuel Sanders had just shy of 100 receiving yards last week and 2 receiving touchdowns. Plus the matchup not bad against the Texans. They're allowing just around 30 fantasy points to fantasy wideouts this season. So I love Manny Sanders. He's good.
Right.
I think he kind of gets slept on. So I'm like, no, flex him. Do it. Let's do it this week. It's time now for Who Scores, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Rank, I want to start with you. I just talked about Emmanuel Sanders. Now we're going to talk about Stephon Diggs. He's not had over 70 receiving yards in a single game this season. Is that going to continue against the Texans today?
You know what? I think that this is a tough one to expect Stephon Diggs to finally crack 70 yards because the matchup doesn't lend itself to a high volume of passing. If we anticipate the Bills getting up early in this contest, that could mean a lot of opportunities for guys like Zach Moss and Devin Singletary to run the football, more so than Josh Allen throwing for 400 yards or something like that. So Stephon Diggs, excellent player. He has a possibility of getting a touchdown. But for me, I don't think 70 yards, I would probably put him in right around 68.
I was going to say, what exactly is your projection for Stephon Diggs today?
I have him with 4 receptions, 68 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay.
So that's still a good fantasy.
That's
14.8 fantasy points, but I don't think it's going to be the monster.
The monster.
GMFB, when I do, because I get like Daniel Day-Lewis, I go full character. I just dive in. It's hard for me to shake the last accent that I do.
It's a monster.
So I'm talking about PPR. I'm starting him here.
Okay.
All right.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap that on right.
Producer's
Marcus,
yelling.
with Christian McCaffrey out, Chuba Hubbard. Does that mean he's automatically a top 15 running back this week against the Cowboys?
Well, first off, whenever I hear his name, I think of the old Hubba Bubba Bubble Gum. So I'm like,
so good, by the way.
Chubba Hubba Bubble Gum,
Yep.
like that. But yes, he will be a top 15 running back this week. I think the thing that we have learned, first from Mike Davis last year, but now from Chuba Hubbard this year, is that the Panthers just have a lot of plays in their playbook that involve getting the ball to the running back. It's obviously great when you've got a guy like Christian McCaffrey who can do all those sorts of things. But even last week, we saw Chuba Hubbard get a lot of carries. We saw him get some targets. So I think just in terms of the yards he can get on the ground, the catches he can get, I think that kind of puts him in that top 15 range. And if he gets in the end zone, just lock it up. It's for sure.
Game over. Chuba Hubbard. The volume could be there. Marcus, DraftKings is projecting Hubbard at right around 57.5 rush yards. So what is your fantasy projection for him today?
Oh, I think he can get you 60 or more rushing yards. I think that's good. I mean, he got you somewhere near that last week when he was just sort of thrown in an emergency situation. So I think having a week of practice going against the Cowboys defense, I think he can get you that for sure.
I love it. Rank, going back around to you, this time DeAndre Swift. He's not had a 50-plus rushing yard game so far this season. Does he finally have one against your Chicago Bears?
Well, I do project him. I don't know. I know that Dan Campbell said that he wants to get the ball to him more, which is understandable. There's not a lot of great options here in this Detroit offense. 2 great running backs, a really good tight end, exceptional tight end, and then that's about it. And you've got Jared Goff, who fumbles the ball anytime there's a little moisture in the air.
Be nice.
No, listen, we saw it on Monday night a couple of weeks ago in Green Bay. So I don't like the output for the Lions offense, but I definitely love DeAndre Swift. I think he's a great running back.
DraftKings is projecting Swift right around 53.5 rushing yards. So what is your fantasy projection for him, Ray?
Well, my projections usually are based on touches, where I think that he's going to have close to 19, 20 touches. I think that he's definitely somebody who should probably get over 100 scrimmage yards. But I think a lot of it comes through the air as well. That's been one of the things that makes him so good. So to say that they're going to be able to focus on the run, I'm not sure they're going to be able to. I think the Bears are going to play much better offensively, and I think the Lions are going to throw the ball than a lot of people are expecting. I know everybody overreacts to the Bears every time. Like, they've been terrible against the Rams and the Browns, 2 Super Bowl contenders. Against the Bengals, they were fine. They're going to be fine.
47 yards of total offense. Whatever, it's okay. I don't want to get you on your tangent.
I'm just saying,
Marcus. Nick Chubb has not cracked the century mark in a single game so far this season. Does that come to an end today versus the Minnesota Vikings?
I don't think it does, to be honest. I think
Really?
I think he's effective. I think they use him a lot, and I think. Look, I would say that, depending on who the opponent is, you see the Browns get out early, score a whole lot of points, and then you just kind of ride Nick Chubb to grind out the clock or whatever. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Vikings are going to be able to score points and sort of stay in this game. I do think the Browns win, but as Rank also pointed out, I mean, Kareem Hunt is such a big part of what they do. That automatically takes opportunities away from Nick Chubb. So I think he has a really nice game, but I don't know that he gets to 100 rushing yards this week.
Why does everybody assume the Vikings are going to lose this game? That's interesting to me.
You're such a weird Vikings fan.
I'm not a Vikings fan at all, but I feel like I'm the only one who picked the Vikings this week in our little pick'em thing. I thought that was weird.
I think the Browns are good.
The Browns are fine.
good. Speaking of the Browns being good, Marcus, speaking of the Browns being good, DraftKings is projecting Nick Chubb at right around 70.5 rush yards. What is your fantasy projection for him?
I'm projecting him at about 85 rushing yards. I think, like I said, I think he gets a lot of work, especially in the second half if the Browns have a lead. But like I said, I think 100 yards is maybe a bridge too far, but I feel like 80 to 85 yards is a legitimate projection for him.
Okay, good projections for Nick Chubb, but also Kareem Hunt getting some involvement as well. It's time for a very quick break, but we're getting closer and closer to kickoff, so make sure that you continue to stay with us. Next on NFL Fantasy Game Day, presented by Geico, the Crystal Football is out. Our final list of must-starts is coming up next. Dak Prescott, number 4, taking on the Carolina Panthers. I love Dak Prescott. I root for him so hard. Not only in fantasy football, but in real life.
No matter what he does, he always makes it rain.
He does.
Because that's his actual name.
Is it R-E-I?
R-A-Y-N-E.
I love that. Who would have known? Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. 15 minutes to kick off. Here we are, notable actives and inactives. If you're watching, make sure the inactive guys aren't on your starting roster today. It's probably a good idea. But you can get DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, Dalvin Cook, and Antonio Gibson into the mix. They all will be playing. You guys, the time is here. It's time now for 15 minutes presented by Geico. Just a reminder, continue to send us your fan questions. We're going to get to some right now, starting with you, Marcus.
Okay.
Keep tweeting us at NFL Fantasy. We try to answer them during the commercial breaks as hard as we can. All right, Marcus, should I start Jonathan Taylor or Chuba Hubbard as my RB2?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor. I feel like this is sort of like trying to just speak it into existence.
Okay.
That he's not going to get shut down at the goal line all the time.
All right, Rank, this one coming for you. Allen Robinson, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk in the flex, full point PPR.
Allen Robinson.
Homer.
I'm not giving up on my third-round pick.
Okay, that's true. Okay, Marcus, back around to you. Najee Harris or David Montgomery on the flex? Humble, brag.
Ooh, I know, right? Like, why can't you start both of these guys? I would actually say Harris, just because I think he gets more targets. I think the passing volume is going to be the difference there.
Okay, Rank, last one for you. Who do I flex? I need to know. Trey Sermon, Michael Pittman, Juju, or Kirk? Christian
Assuming
Kirk,
this is a PPR league, I'm going to go Trey Sermon. I'm going to run the ball.
Okay.
Elijah is out.
Yep.
Yeah, Elijah Mitchell's out. So let's go Trey Sermon.
All right, Trey Sermon, here we go. Gentlemen, where's the air horns? It's time now for Sunday Funday, and we're going to tell you who we think is going to be the top scorer, starting with you, Adam Rank.
Well, I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp in this one. Obviously, the relationship that he's like, listen, it's a must start. It's not like, it's the fantasy top scorer, not like, here, Colin Johnson's going to have 9 points. This is who's going to be the top scorer. And Matthew Stafford has already established a relationship with Cooper Kupp. So to me, this is probably the easiest picks on the board. And I get roasted for it because it probably is too easiest, but whatever. I don't care. I'm obsessed.
Well, I feel like the easiest pick is the shark that now knows how to use nunchucks, a.k.a. Derrick Henry. That's why you tune in at the beginning of the show, so you understand references like this at the end of the show.
Exactly.
I mean, look, the top 2 wide receivers are out, even though I know that it's been the NWI show there in Tennessee. That's Nick Westbrook-Akine. They're going to just feed Derrick Henry a ton against a defense that's not particularly good. He's going to just ball out today.
Love Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
We know who I love even more, who's going to be the top scorer?
Who?
Alvin Kamara. I already stand for Jameis Winston. I said that I'm going to bring it a little spicy with him being a sleeper. But Alvin Kamara versus the Giants today. Again, returning to the Superdome. Alvin Kamara, he's elite. We all know that. He's had 2 receiving touchdowns this season. Not yet a rushing touchdown, but that's because he's involved in not only the rushing game, but also the passing game. He's incredible. His scrimmage yards are always just like off the charts. So if Jameis Winston's going to play well and they don't really have a lot of wide receiver options, though they did add Kenny Stills, Alvin Kamara is going to be elite. I said what I said. Time for a must-start quarterback. Adam Rank.
I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins. One of 3 quarterbacks this season to score at least 22 fantasy points in every game this year. The other tier are Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Kirk Cousins, I know it doesn't seem like, why is he the third wheel in that group? But I think that this is a pretty decent enough matchup against the Cleveland Browns. I know both of these coaches would love to run the football, but I think that it's going to start to get a little high scoring, which will force Kirk Cousins to throw the ball.
Which is why I'm looking at the quarterback on the other side of this matchup in Baker Mayfield. I mean, the Vikings giving up a pretty hefty yards per attempt average. I think they faced the 11th fewest pass attempts so far in the league, but they've given up the 6th most passing yards, so you can kind of do the math on that if you want. But the point is, I expect a lot of play action. I expect them to get the ball out to OBJ, Kareem Hunt, and I think Baker probably woke up feeling dangerous this morning.
Dangerous Baker. Dangerous Baker. I like Dangerous Baker Mayfield. Marcus, I know you talked about Jalen Hurts earlier, but I'm going to double down and say he is a must-start against my Kansas City Chiefs. He's kind of a fantasy darling because somehow he always puts up at least 20 fantasy points, no matter how he does it. Through the air, on the ground, somehow Jalen Hurts does it. And now the matchup is there against my Chiefs defense, which are allowing the 2nd most points to quarterbacks this season. So Jalen Hurts, he is a must-start. Adam Rank, your must-start running back.
Well, I'll go back and just reiterate the fact that you need to start Jonathan Taylor, even with Quentin Nelson out this week, even with Nyheim Hines sitting there stealing some of the opportunity for him. Jonathan Taylor still ranks amongst the top running backs in touches inside the 5-yard line. Eventually, he's going to break through and score a couple of touchdowns. So don't let it be the week that you bench him, that he scores 2 touches.
Yeah, that's why I sort of like, let's just wish cast a little bit of Jonathan Taylor's success is what we should do. I'm also looking at Miles Sanders. I think some of it is because I expect a little bit of overcorrection after the Eagles just didn't really run the football much last week. I think they had 2 carries by somebody not named Jalen Hurts last week. So I think you see an overcorrection. You see some more Miles Sanders. Plus, if it turns into a track meet, which is certainly possible, Sanders can still catch the ball effectively out of the backfield, too.
Unlike Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Ayo, I went there.
No.
Right, you're going to love this. I love David Montgomery because, like Marcus kind of pointed out, with Justin Fields being the starting quarterback, they kind of need to get back to basics because the offense not been so hot. David Montgomery, he's elite. We understand that. But so is the matchup. The Lions, I'm so sorry to say this, Dan Campbell, they've allowed 6 total touchdowns to running backs this season. It's tied for most in the NFL.
Yeah, why do you always apologize?
I am terrified of Dan Campbell. I don't come from my knees.
Where's he going to bite your kneecaps or something?
I don't know. He's a dangerous man. Dan Campbell is a very dangerous man. All right, Rank, going back around to you. Must start wide out.
I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel. I think that 33% of the target share for the San Francisco 49ers is very telling. George Kittle is on the injury report. That's a later game, so we don't know if he's going to be active or not. But to me, Deebo has to play against the Seahawks, a team that has allowed a lot of production to opposing wide receivers this season, and really for the last couple of years, ever since the demise of the Legion of Boom. You know, they're still there. It's still the name,
but not
the same.
reality.
Like the new guy doing Blippy. Like, I don't care.
That's a personal thing with you and your daughter. That's all right.
Yeah.
Marcus?
Well, I'm going to go Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know that he hasn't been what people wanted him to be for the first few weeks of the season, but the opportunity has been there. The targets have been there. It's just that they've been throwing him a lot of short passes, and it just hasn't turned into big yards or a lot of touchdowns. But I think this week it actually happens against the Washington defense that hasn't looked all that formidable so far this season.
They sack quarterbacks, so that's
They do
tough.
sack quarterbacks, so as long as it's going to be important to keep Matt Ryan protected. But if they can give him time to throw, I do think there's plays downfield to be made for Calvin Ridley.
Chase Young, not yet this season having a sack, though.
That's true.
So, hey, you know, maybe he won't be sacked. I love Jalen Waddle. You want to talk about Calvin Ridley having volume and opportunity? Rank joked, but kind of did not joke, that we could see him having 90 targets today against the Colts.
I mean, that's a little excessive.
I mean, maybe
yeah, it's only like 75.
I was going to say, maybe it's 75. Jalen Waddle, consistently the most targeted player by Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett only sees Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki on the field, so I feel pretty comfortable going with Waddle today.
Another Fama Patriots quarterback.
Must start tight end. Adam Rank is
Kyle Pitts.
Ooh,
again, you can throw on this Washington FT team, even though they've been getting after the quarterback, and I do fear for Matt Ryan. I think that Kyle Pitts, I know that we kind of expected way too much out of him, and it's on us. You know, similar to what happened last year with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, if you didn't take
Why did you look at me when you said that? Did I draft him in the first round?
did.
I don't know.
That's the thing. If you weren't drafting Kyle Pitts in the 4th round, you probably would be less upset by his 9 or 8.3 fantasy points per game. He's been okay, but not quite the superstar that we've expected. I still think that this Falcons offense is going to be better at some point this season.
Yeah, I would agree with that, too. I do think something good's happening for Kyle Pitts today. But Logan Thomas is a guy that I have been on all offseason long. I think there's some big things coming for him. I think he's going to be productive. And right now, there really aren't a lot of pass catchers in this offense besides Terry McLaurin. I know Curtis Samuels is expected to be back, and we'll see what happens there. But in the meantime, Logan Thomas is the other really reliable option in the passing game. And plus, you know, we always just like to pick on the Falcons defense, so let's pick on the Falcons defense.
Yeah,
I always feel mean when we pick, but it's okay.
Is it? I mean, it worked last week with Danny Jones.
I mean, like, they were stuck with Colin Johnson and Kadarius Toney at some point.
I know, but still.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you love Logan Thomas.
The ball.
I want to put a little bit of respect on Zach Ertz's name because I feel like he was so amazing. But we got to make sure to hype him up going again against my Kansas City Chiefs. He saw 7 targets and a touchdown last week, finally getting into that end zone. That's right around an 18% target share from Jalen Hurts. The matchup obviously still there. My Chiefs defense, If you hear this, please lock it down. I know you're about to suit up and play a game. Please lock it down. But otherwise, the volume and the opportunity clearly there for Zach Ertz. The only concern I have with Zach Ertz is that I feel like on a week-to-week basis, it could either be him or Dallas Goedert. It's like one of them is going to pop. But it's a 50% chance. It could be Zach Ertz. So I'm going to rock with this. This takes us now to our fantasy bold predictions for week 4. Adam Rank, give me the boldest, spiciest, hottest take for week 4.
Well, I'm going to say this. Everybody obviously is tuned in to this Tom Brady return to Foxborough. But what about the other side of the football? I think Mac Jones has a chance right now to really make a statement for himself. And I'm projecting him to throw 3 touchdowns this week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can throw on this Buccaneers team. We've seen other quarterbacks have some success in the past. So for me, I think it's a little bit spicy. I got Mac Jones playing in some spaces, mostly super flex leagues, but
that is spicy indeed. So we talked about Kyle Pitts. I talked about the Falcons offense. I think they get going. And I think not only does Kyle Pitts score his first NFL touchdown today, he actually scores 2 of them. He's going to get in the end zone twice. You know, it's funny because like the comparisons have sort of been to a young Julio Jones. And Julio was one of those guys that coming out of college immediately attracted attention from defenses. But it was in week 4 when Julio finally had his big breakout. So here we are. Kyle Pitts has been sort of underwhelming the first 3 weeks. But in week 4, the unicorn shows up.
The unicorn, one of the best generational talents we've ever seen in the NFL. He shows up in week 4. I'm going to stick with this game, but on the other side of the ball. Spicy hot take. I think at least 2 players from the Washington football team end up in top 10 amongst fantasy players. It could either be Antonio Gibson, top 10 fantasy running back, Terry McLaurin, top 10 wideout, even Logan Thomas, a top 10 tight end, since you said he liked him. I like Spice, so I'm going to root for the Washington football team. Gentlemen, any last words of advice? Very quick. Marcus.
Look, if you're 0-3, don't panic. There's still plenty of time for you to turn things around.
Gosh, you're like my therapist. I think he said that right for me. That is our time for today. Kimmy Checks, Marcus Grant, Adam Rank. You watch Fantasy Game Day presented by Geico. We're here every Sunday, so make sure you continue to tune in. We want to get you a fantasy championship, so pay attention to us, please. We got all the advice. Good luck to everyone. Week 4, we hope you win your fantasy matchups. We will see you next Sunday. Good luck, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Happy NFL Week 4.